How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and today we're going to be talking about Queen's Blood. Now, I know initially I said that I was going to take something that I'd already done and clip it up and make a short out of it, but that kind of felt like it was going to be a bit rubbish. When I started doing it, I was like, yeah, this is bad. So we're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about it. We've only got about 3 or 4 seconds of footage of the game, so there's not a massive amount that we can take from it. But I'm pretty confident that over the next few minutes we can get a rough idea of how the game's going to play. Don't forget, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future content, but let's crack on with breaking down Queen's Blood and how much information we can get out of it so far. So Queen's Blood is a board game that you're going to play against random people that you're going to meet throughout the world. It seems like it's going to be similar in a way to the way Fort Condor was done in Intermission. You'll go up to people, you'll challenge them, you'll see them sat there with like a table with one of these Queen's Blood boards on it. And the way it's split up is you've got 3 rows of 5 spaces arranged in a landscape formation with a player at either end of it. So in front of you you'll have 3 spaces, then 3 spaces, 3 spaces, etc, etc, etc. And the goal seems to be to get as high a number on your end of the table as possible. So as you can see, each of the rows of 5 that we've got going across, there's a number at each end, which seems to be a cumulative tally of like the cards that you've put down, and we'll get into that in a second. And my assumption at this point is higher number equals winner. That's usually a good way to go about it, but there seems to be a lot more to it than that. So looking at the screenshot that we're working with here, as you can see, Cloud on the left hand side has placed a soldier card in the middle, a Shimra security officer, and that's giving him 1 point on the middle row. And then on the bottom row, he's placing a Levricon, which is going to give him 2 points on the bottom row. That's all pretty straightforward. We can also see that Zahira has placed an enemy card in the bottom right hand corner, and that's given Zahira 2 points on their row. But they've also got a weird little icon next to their number on that row. Now, from what I can see on the footage that they showed us at Tokyo Game Show, it seems like as your number goes up on the row, it drops chips down into there, and then all of the chips will go into this bowl that we can see on each end of the table, and whoever's got the most chips in the bowl at the end of the game wins. I've got a feeling it's not going to be 1 round, I've got the feeling it might be 2 or 3 rounds. I've seen people comparing it to Gwent, and it seems like it could maybe be a little bit similar, but not really at the same time. With Gwent, it's all about cumulative power, whereas with this, there seems to be a bit more of a strategic aspect to it. And what I mean by this is the little pawn icons that we see on the board at this moment in time. So they look very much like pawns from a chessboard, that's why I'm referring to them as such. And it seems like they are the thing that determines what allows a card to be placed there. So in the footage from Tokyo Game Show, we kind of saw that there was a Levricon card in the middle rather than being placed at the bottom in this instance. And on the board, that made it so that there was 2 pawns beneath the Levricon on the board. So in the space directly beneath it, there was 2 pawns, to the right of it 1, and above it 1. And we'll dive into that a little bit more in a second as well, but as the player places the card that they use, you can see that they place it on a 2-pawn spot, and it changes the number of pawns around in the area. So what I take from that is the fact that, first off, in order to place a card down, it seems like we have to have the corresponding number of pawns on the board in the space that you want to put it down. Just like we see in the Tokyo Game Show footage, there are 2 pawns on the space, and they place a 2-pawn card. Now, the way that you know that it needs 2 of these, I feel bad calling them pawns, sacrifices? No, we'll call them pawns. But yeah, the way that you tell how many of these pawns a card needs is just by looking at the top left-hand corner of the card. You can see how many of these pawns it requires in order to be placed, and that's what you have to do. That's my assumption, that's what it looks like to me. Now, the question that you may then ask is, how do you get these pawns on the board? And that's also explained on the card. So if you look at each of the cards in the middle of them, you'll see that there's kind of a Tetris block kind of shape going on in there. And these shapes are the thing that determines the pawns and what else happens on the board, I believe. So if we look at Mu, for example, Mu has got 2 yellow squares, a white square, and then a red square. So first off, quite obviously, you've got the white square, which is where the card itself will go. You then have the yellow squares, which it seems to me it adds 1. So every yellow square that you will see there, it will add 1 pawn into that square. So if there's already a pawn there, it will become 2. If there's 2 there, it will become 3. And then the red square, we don't actually see this square in action, but I would believe it's one of two things. Either it removes a pawn entirely, or it's just null. It does nothing. I would expect that it removes a pawn, so it's kind of limiting where you can place those cards in order to maximize the amount of pawns that you can have on the board, and therefore the amount of cards that you can have on the board, and therefore the amount of chips in the bowl at the end to win. That's what it seems like to me. So the quicker you can fill up the squares with pawns and then subsequently fill them up with your cards, that's how you win. I don't know if there's anything you get for the center square or anything like that. We've not seen any gameplay that goes beyond that point. I don't know if there's any kind of conflict mechanic in the same way that in Triple Triad, you'd put cards down next to each other and they'd fight. I don't know what would happen here if, say, we were both contesting one square and both putting pawns down on that one square. Not too sure how that'd go. I assume it'd just be a case of whoever gets their pawns on that square the fastest can then claim it first. But we don't know if there's any kind of battle mechanics to this yet. But yeah, that's my basic breakdown of this game. I think that's probably pretty close to what it's going to be. Whether or not, again, there's any battle mechanics to it, like how high level the cards go, remains to be seen. The highest that we've seen is an Alpha Dunk, which has got a 4 for how many chips that you'd get for it. It takes 2 to summon, and yeah, that seems to be the strongest card that we've got so far. I'm looking forward to getting more details on this game so that we can actually figure it out. Are we going to have a competitor for Triple Triad as for the greatest card-based minigames to have ever been created ever in all of the world? I don't think so, but it looks like it could be fun, and as long as it's better than Tetramaster, I'll be fine with it. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Like I say, I just wanted to quickly break it down, get some thoughts out there, see what people think about the game. It looks like it's reasonably simple, but with enough complexity to it that you could, there will be some skill required in making sure that you do get your victories. I'm interested to see what kind of side quest stuff there is with it, because apparently there is a story with it that progresses through the game, and like with more people that you defeat, you unlock more of the story. So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to what rewards we can get. Looking forward to seeing what special cards there are, maybe. Yeah, lots of things. But that's going to be the end of this one. So don't forget, drop a like on the video, subscribe for future content. We're going to be dropping the first ever Crisis video probably tomorrow as well, so I'm going to look at the first couple of chapters in one video and we'll talk about that. But yeah, that's going to be it from me. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, like and sub. But more importantly than any of that, have a great day.